Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Ridley from State Promotions, Department for Trade and Investment. Thanks so much for tuning into today's Japan in Market webinar. For those of you who have attended these sessions previously, it's great to have you back, and to our new attendees, welcome. This is our third session of our Series 4 webinars with wine focus updates held earlier this week for the Americas and China regions. We're really proud of our webinars and have had a successful rate of over 1,000 attendees tune in during our first 3 series. Today we have the lovely and knowledgeable Sally Townsend. She's going to talk to us about all things Japan. Sally's a long-term resident of Tokyo, commenced her role of South Australia's Regional Director for Japan and Korea in March 2019. She has a background in the wine industry. She's passionate about her home state, South Australia, and is actively working to open the market for new exporters and increasing the market share for our existing exporting companies. Today we're also trying something a little different, a more interactive and relaxed Q&A format in which you can jump in at any time with a question, and I'll weave into my chat with Sally. This has resulted from your feedback that you wanted more time allocated for questions. Before we get started though, just a couple of housekeeping items. The session's being recorded and will be uploaded to the Department for Trade and Investment's website. As already mentioned, you can jump in at any time to ask a question. Just submit your question through the Q&A field on the right-hand side of your screen, but please direct them to all panellists rather than specifically to one. Otherwise, I won't be able to see it and ask Sally the question. If we do run out of time and we haven't addressed your query, I'll contact you personally and connect you to the most appropriate departmental representative. And lastly, at the end of the session, please take the time to complete our short 10-second poll. So let's get started. Connect you are, Sally. I hope you're well.
Hi, Ash. I am. I'm very genki. Thank you. And thank you for your lovely introduction.
It's my pleasure. So I've heard some really great news coming out of Japan. The Prime Minister's lifted the lockdown across Japan, with Tokyo being the last prefecture to come out of lockdown this week. So what does this look like, and what does this mean for our businesses? How can they move forward now?
Well, it's great news, Ash. As you can probably see, I'm still at home. So lockdown has been lifted, but people are still being cautious about going back to work. Obviously, we have social distancing restrictions and that kind of thing. And I'm actually based in the Australian Embassy here, so I imagine there's a lot of work to do before I actually get back to the office. But it is great, and just the atmosphere on the street is terrific. People are feeling much more positive. Restaurants are now allowed to trade until 10 p.m. at night, which is just wonderful news, and particularly for us South Australians, because that's where most of our stuff is. It's in the restaurants and hotels. Our premium food, our premium wine, that's where it is. So it's wonderful that restaurants can trade up until that late. Over the past 2 months, they've only been able to trade until 7 p.m, which is really not helpful at all. But it has helped in, obviously, we've done pretty well over here with cases of COVID-19. So I imagine it has helped in that respect. But these traders are certainly looking forward to having their regulars back, I think.
That's great. Already we've got a question coming in. David Otway, he says, hi Sally. David here from Uni Adelaide ELC. Wondering if there's any indication of when semester break will be in early 2021, and as this will affect regular study tour dates, and also what the government has said about international travelling at the beginning of 2021.
So, hi David, it's through 2021 days. There's been a lot of talk about the new school year starting in September, but I think that's a big change and perhaps too big for now. and even if it does come about, it probably wouldn't be until 2021 anyway. But and as you know, that there is no travel between our countries at the moment. But what we are really looking forward to doing is putting pressure on the government to start a kind of business bubble between Japan and Australia. And this is talked about a lot here in Japan in our kind of Chamber of Commerce circles and business circles. We've both done incredibly well. We're both each other's second strongest trading partners, and we need to get those international students back on the planes and back out to Australia and South Australia. So who knows if that will happen, but the pressure is certainly on, and it has become a topic of conversation. The motivation is there, the passion is there. There are students who are looking forward to coming out, but when they actually can, it's up to our governments.
That's fantastic, and apologies to our viewers. It looks like Sally's internet is lacking a bit of strength there. David said acknowledge that and thanks. So just to go on from our previous comment about the lifting of restrictions and what it means, perhaps we can expand on what's the best thing for South Australian exporters for them to enter the Japanese market and drive sales of their products in market. I'm presuming with the restaurants' later opening times, that might help with our companies.
Yeah, it is. It's great news. And I think what we really can do for driving sales and having exporters really push their products in market, the best thing to do is really develop that relationship with your partner in market. So if you've got something here, if you've got your wine here or your product here, keep in touch with your partner in market, your importer, and find out what you can do to help them. That's been probably the mantra since day one with this whole situation. And it's tricky. We're doing video conferences, and then we have these kind of internet issues, and I can see sometimes that wheel of death coming up on the screen, and I think, oh, have I frozen? Ash has frozen. What are people thinking when they're watching this? So apologies for that, but it just goes to show that nothing really beats that face-to-face communication. So when we can travel and you can come back into market, that's really when your partners here will need you to come over and really help them with their promotions and, help you to see what the changes have been and what's been happening in Japan.
No, that's fantastic. You did mention about the VCs, for instance, and have I heard whispers of virtual events? Are there like tastings of some sort? Is that something that's in train at the moment? Is that an opportunity potentially for some of our viewers to be part of?
Yes. Thanks, Ash. So we have a new Instagram account here called called South Australia in Tokyo. It's at South Australia Tokyo, and it's specifically for the Japan audience. So Instagram is very, very big here. It's probably the #1 used platform. So we've just started this, and I hope to have a senior South Australian official officially launch us soon as well. But what we aim to do here is use our appointed ambassadors in market. So we've appointed a wine ambassador and some spirits ambassadors, some food ambassadors, who will do either live tasting tutorials, or we will put short videos of tasting sessions up on this Instagram account. And our first one is next Friday, and it's with Heather and Dion. And Heather and Dion is in the McLaren Vale Winery, and they're new to market. They, I think September last year was when they actually started their sales in Japan, and Mao from Hither and Yon will be doing a tasting tutorial with our wine ambassador, Kenji Tanaka. And it's not a live one because it's our first one. This is just a video, but this will be edited and put up on our Instagram account. And we hope to really reach a large audience. So people in the wine industry, importers, distributors, restaurateurs, sommeliers, wine lovers in general, and people who can really pull down that demand. They can go to a restaurant and say, I saw this wine on Instagram, do you have it? Or an importer, a restaurateur can say to their importer, I really want to have this wine. How do I get it? So that's the aim of it, and we hope to do that with gin and other products in market as well.
Very exciting times. I'm so pleased that we can use this digital format to introduce new companies. To viewers that have tuned in, a little bit of a different format today, which is just a Q&A interactive chat with Sally. So if you would like to submit a question, head to the field to the right of your screen and pop it in. Otherwise, I have plenty of questions to ask of Sally myself. So we'll just keep proceeding as is. Sally, so what's the general process in introducing a new company to a buyer? Do we have to be mindful of the cultural aspects? Should our companies be giving thoughtful consideration behind their approach? And can you help facilitate introductions?
Yeah, sure. We can really help with that. I mean, that's the major part of our office, and that's what we spend a lot of time doing, is facilitating these introductions. And I think what's really important is that it's important to choose the right partner. So even if you have a product and someone has reached out to you directly and you just want to know if that company is above board, how they do in market themselves, that kind of thing, please reach out to us and we can check on that for you as well. Because a lot of people, I think, you know, especially at the moment, there are probably a lot of emails going out from various companies looking for different products. So, but we really have to be careful in who we do business with here. If you do end up going with a company that's probably not the best one for you, it can really damage your brand in market and set you back when you want to pursue with another importer, for example. So that's one way in which we can help you here, I think, or help producers and manufacturers back in South Australia. And I think it's also to be mindful that stuff takes time here. I mean, it takes time in many countries, but in Japan in particular, sometimes you think, oh, what's going on? Is this person interested? And it's just that things take time. I think what COVID has done here in Japan, it has brought about a new flexibility with business arrangements, which is wonderful. However, that underlying traditional having meetings, meeting with absolutely everyone on the board, that kind of thing, that still hasn't.
Some really good, valuable feedback there, Sally. Can language play a part as well, or is there generally Australian speakers in Japan land?
So English is spoken here, and sometimes you'll find that you're conversing with someone over email in English and their English is perfect, but when you meet them face to face, they don't speak English. So this is often a tricky thing, or they're shy or not confident about their English skills. So it really does help to, I think it's just manners to try and do something in that person's language. Obviously, it's very, very difficult, but that's where we can help as well with, guiding of, how to approach a particular company. Is that company traditional? if you're talking with someone who is speaking in English and then, sorry, writing in English and then can't speak in English, we can also facilitate there too. Sometimes stuff does get lost in translation, and you'll be writing or talking with someone and think, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound right. And it just takes a conversation in that language, perhaps with, between me and that person, or my colleague and that person, just to set things straight. So it is very important here.
Oh, sound advice. Matthew Currans submitted a question, Sally. How is Australian wine generally perceived by the Japanese public? Is it considered premium product or a value product?
Hi, Matthew. Thank you. That's a great question. And Australian wine is, by the general public, I would say, is considered as not a premium product, to be honest. And this is one thing that we're really working hard on to change that public perception. Obviously, there are a huge amount of wine lovers here. It's a very, very sophisticated country, and you can buy any single wine in the world. If there's a person making 2 bottles of wine a year, one of those bottles will be in this market. However, there is that perception that still exists of wine being, a $10 bottle with a critter on it. And this is what we're really trying hard to change. And I think, Wine Australia and the South Australia office here is, doing a good job in that. And what we're doing this year, particularly with our wine tasting tutorials that you mentioned before, that we're doing on our Instagram page, we really want to show that we are a premium product. South Australia is the number one wine producing state in Australia. We have a huge number of wine producing areas. This is the one thing that we're really good at. And what we plan to do throughout the year under our Tasting South Australia promotion banner is work with restaurants and food service providers here to do food and wine workshops. So complimentary workshops, so people can really learn more about South Australia food and wine culture on a whole. And I think that education will really help with wine sales and that perception of South Australian wine as premium.
So to cap on from that, Sally, you mentioned that they're probably not seen as premium. Would you say that's correct? Yes. Are they aware of some of our premium brand wines? Say the likes of, I hate to use their name, but Penfolds. Is that
Yes.
seen as a premium wine?
Yeah. So the people who are real fans of Australian wine and who know Penfolds Grange and who know the value and not just Australian Shiraz, but we can make a whole heap of fantastic wine here. We grow a whole number of great varieties. These people are people who have been to Australia and South Australia. So I'm actually working with a group, the Hunku group here, who do it's an interesting concept. They have it's called Winomi, and they have, I think, 11,000 followers and subscribers to their information, and they hold events in restaurants and try and introduce the bring your own BYO culture. And I've been working with them to do a number of South Australian wine events. And the first one I did, I had this big long speech, or maybe not that long, but a speech prepared about South Australian wine, and this is where we are, and you might know Grange and da da da. And every single person there had been to South Australia and knew South Australian wine, and I was shocked. There were 20 people, but it was just wonderful. And these core people have been to perhaps every wine event I've done they're all following the Tasting South Australia, the South Australia Tokyo Instagram page. They're terrific. So it just goes to show how valuable tourism is, particularly in South Australia as well, to get the get the names out. We're not just Grange. We can use Grange or leverage Grange and Penfolds, but we've got a number of other fantastic wineries out there too that we need to promote.
Okay. So other than our wines, what else do Japanese people know about South Australia?
So South Australia is still kind of an unknown area, and this is why we're trying really hard to promote South Australia. We had our first trade and consumer event called Tasting South Australia last November, and we have one this November as well. But for a lot of people, South Australia is the whole of the southern of Australia. So we have to kind of pinpoint where we are, and we're doing that with stories through wine and also through another interesting story we have with kangaroo meat. Macro meats kangaroo meat. So this is a very, very interesting story, and it's a South Australian story. And Japanese people love to hear something that is unique to that, about something that's unique to that particular place. So we're using these stories to really try and promote what is South Australia, where we are, and how great we are, basically.
Great. I have a couple more questions. Ravichandran, I see you're very keen to maybe work with Sally to look at having your company participate in the Japan market. We'll reach out to you separately on your interests. Obviously, there's a bit of an assessment that takes place, and we will endeavour to support you and help you out of this forum. So we'll be in contact with you, Ravichandran. Liz Adams, she's asked, how did the online sector fare during the lockdown?
Hi, Liz. I know Liz, her wine is in market here now, Brothers in Arms, the Killy Bin Bin range. Well, this is the thing, the online sector went wild during lockdown, and this is what we've seen, the e-commerce, companies that had e-commerce platforms already set up just did brilliantly, and people who would normally not buy anything off an internet site, particularly the older generation in Japan, now see e-commerce as essential for them. So it's very, very interesting. Wine in particular sold, and this is down to some wine importers who already had a very robust B2C plan and a number of customers who would buy directly from them. And I think what happened is people were still drinking wine, but people were looking online at cheaper versions of what they would normally drink. So wine did sell, but these importers like Sama Japan, Jeroboam, Village Cellars, there are a number of them here, really pushed their wine packages, their daily wine packages, and worked with other sites online to get their message out. And I think they probably did okay over the past 2 months.
Great to hear. Duncan Mackey, I'm not mindful of time. We've hit 11:25, so we will be winding up soon. No, you've been fantastic, Sally. Thank you. But I'm mindful of any attendees. It's very much wine, food, but Japan has strengths in renewable energy, in many other sectors. Education, it was great to have an education question earlier, but don't let this opportunity waste. Get in your questions. As I said, we still have a little bit of time left. Duncan Mackey has raised a question, talking of wine tourism in South Australia. I've heard rumours that Japan will be the first to be able to visit Australia post-COVID-19. Is there truth to this?
Sorry?
That Japanese people will be some of the first to be able to visit Australia.
Oh, I hope so, Duncan. I really hope so. um, I had a number of outbound trips from Japan to South Australia booked for March, April, May and June of this year that have all been cancelled, and try as we might to get stuff done on the old BC, it doesn't really work sometimes. You know, the Japanese, they love to go to market, and just out of their curiosity, or you know, meeting the people who are actually in market, going and testing the soil, particularly for the vineyards, picking the grapes, tasting the wine at the winery. That's what they love to do, and this is why it's so important, if we can, to get the Japan-Australia business bubble going, or the Japan-Australia flights going first. That would be terrific. And also for the international students as well. But it really is, I mean, Japanese buyers are all about going to that place, going to where that particular product was made, meeting those people who make that product. It's very, very important in business culture here. So fingers crossed.
I'm going to throw one last question in. IP, is that huge for Japan? Do we really need to think about and protect IP?
Yes, I think so. I think globally now, and particularly now when you know, there's been a lot of disruption, and I mean, you can even see when there's a lot of fraud going on with COVID-19 now, people really playing on the insecurities and these kind of areas which we think, oh, you know, that's okay, we don't need to do that, we don't need to do this. You really need to think about IP, even in Japan. That's
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's good to reinforce that. And we always think of the Japanese people so polite and respectful. So that's very, very good to hear. Sally, we could chat all day. Seriously, there's just a whole list of questions here we didn't hardly touch on. So perhaps we'll have to leave it for next time. To our viewers, it's great to have you here. We hope you've enjoyed this new format. We're going to pop up a online poll here at the moment. Please take the time to fill this in. Let us know if you like the new format. It puts suggestions through for future topics. We're so grateful to have you as our state's representative in Japan, Sally. You're always so lovely to talk to, so knowledgeable, and I know you would do anything for our attendees and to support South Australian business.
Thank you very much, Ash. I love it.
I know. I love our catch-ups too. It's really, really great. We've got another webinar coming up next Monday, the 1st of June at 5:30. Similar style format, but we're talking to James Moraz, our Regional Director in our London office. So he'll be talking about all things UK and Europe. So if you've got any burning questions, you can submit them to me prior, or join the session and have a chat and have a listen to what James has to say. This recording and other archived recordings are also up on our website. So always head to our website to have a look. South Australian Government, we're here to support you. Any questions, any follow-ups, any support you need, just fill them through and we'll connect you to the right people. So thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you online again soon. Have a wonderful day. Sayonara.
Thank you. Sayonara.